Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 2/28/2022, and today is the Odin Project vlog day 69. So, I got into form validation this evening, and 13% complete. It'll rise after I hit the submit button because I haven't done that yet. But gonna tonight's just a discussion again. There's no code base to go over really, except in the examples and the homework. Similar theme as yesterday as far as structure. So I highly encourage you guys to do that on your own. So I'm going to do things a little bit different than what I normally do. Instead of reviewing through any of this material, what we're going to do is we're just going to go down and pop into the knowledge checks and just kind of talk about them a little bit. And then that's how we'll kind of end today. So it should be short and sweet. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we have is a knowledge check of, well, we'll go over the homework real quick. So the assignment is to read the MDM's client-side form validation guide. You can skip the section on JavaScript basically. So that's a good article. And then I have you go through this guide by this site called SitePoints, excuse me. You can skip the section on JavaScript and validation API. And then there's CSS Tricks has a form validation UX in HTML and CSS guide out there as well. They're all good. They're not nearly as dry as the MDN article. A little more interesting to read. A lot of it's, I won't say it's repetitive, but it's all related. So yesterday was all about styling, and the day before was about form basics, and today is about forms again, but we're validating the forms. Discussing how to do that on mainly the client side, just with vanilla CSS and HTML. So the first knowledge check is what does the required validation do? And basically, the simple answer is if you put required into your input, like right here. Basically means that you won't be able to submit the form without putting, in this example, a valid email address in there. And the email address has, we've talked about this before, it has a challenge within itself. The HTML has some challenge that it requires the @ sign and a dot in the middle of it. It looks for those to make sure those are there. If not, it will throw an error. And most modern browsers will handle that pretty well. The second one is what validations can you use for checking text length? So it depends on, the answer to that really depends on the type of tag or element you're using. So if you're using a form control, you can use the min length to do that. And they show an example here using the min length. Everything else pretty much outside of the text area form control, you would use min. The syntax is just min length on text area. Don't really know why. Probably because it's more of a free flowing text box that you can type whatever in, and so they coded, made the standard min length because it just kind of makes more sense. You can also add a max length validator that won't let you put any more than, in this example, of 20 into the text area. And you can also use a combination of both. And that's good for like passwords and stuff like that, or anything that you need, obviously, a minimum and a maximum for. And this is an example here again of text area using a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 20 together. And I guess we'll just run it real quick. So if I do this and try to tweet, it's going to give me an error. It says, please use at least 5 characters. You're using 1. So there's we meet the requirement. Of course, I get do not enter passwords or personal information, probably because someone in the past has done so. Not very smart, but let's go ahead and stick something way more than 20 in here. Okay, you see how it won't even let me type past the... So it actually, when you type it in these free-flowing text areas, it won't let you go more than the max length. So that's kind of a nice feature, at least in Firefox. I got that experience. Might be different browsers like we talked about yesterday, or versions. And is there max and min validations? Does it talk about that in the... Okay. How can you validate the maximum minimum of numeric? So I clicked on that too fast, sorry. How can you validate the minimum maximum of numeric inputs? So basically you can do this is exactly the same thing I was just saying, except you have the min, and you can use a min and a max. A min equals 1 as your minimum value, and you can have a max equals 10 or whatever for your max, and that's how you do your validation for that. And you see this is a standard input type number, and see this is the one where you'd only use the attribute of min. It's not min length like text area is. So there's in action the difference there. You run that, you got quantity as 0, place order, get thrown an error. Please select a value that is no less than 1. The cool thing about the arrow selectors when you have a min in there is that once you click it, I'm actually clicking, you can't tell, but it won't let me go back beyond minimum 1. It won't let me go back to 0, because that 0 was a value, initial value, like a placeholder, if you will, just to get started. But the minute I clicked up to 1, it won't let me click back to 0. And that's because we have a minimum set here, and that's pretty sweet there. And there's no maximum on this particular code pen, so you can go, to a crazy size. And then this is the exact result with a max. So here we got the same input, and we have a max of 5. So if you run this pen, it will not let you go above 5. Now, the kicker on these number inputs is I can type in 10. It'll let me, but then it'll do the check and I'll be thrown an error. Please select a value that is no more than 5. So it does do the check. But if you use see how I went down to arrow 1, I clicked 1 and went right back to 5. So the browser, at least this version of Firefox, is smart enough to know it's reading that max 5, so it's not letting me go above the max. But it will also challenge if I try to hit book, which is a submit button, and it tries to enter that, sends that to the server, and before it does, it checks this max and sees that it's above 5, so it's not going to let you do it. Yep, type submit button. So this is going to try to basically send a post request to the server. Okay. And then we have, how can you use the pattern validation? What can you use the pattern validation for? So this is something interesting that you guys probably ran into as well in your reading, is we're back to regular expressions. And look, I mean, it's not easy to understand. As you know, regular expressions are kind of a beast of their own, and require their own attention. So that's how you use it. Basically, that's the answer. You use regular expressions as the value. So here you have the example of the pattern equals, and it's a regular expression. So input type text zip code. So basically it's saying it's watching for a regular expression in the format of a 5-digit zip code, I think. No. 5-digit zip code plus a 4-digit suffix. So, and then the dash to separate, as you would know, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, 2 or 1020, whatever. You submit that, it would submit. But if I just put in 1111, it's going to give me an error. Please match the requested format. So it's using the syntax of regular expressions to evaluate that statement. So evaluate the input rather. So one thing that I did see down here at the bottom that I would recommend you guys not necessarily read through unless you have a lot of free time, but I would bookmark it for sure, is this one right here, the regular expression syntax cheat sheet, which brings up this right here, a good MDN article that goes through all the character sets for and their meaning for regular expressions. So this is pretty good. I've seen others out there too. You can Google it as well, but I went ahead and bookmarked this one just so I had it for future use. So that's how you validate your patterns. And then the last one says, what pseudo CSS selectors are available for styling valid and invalid inputs? So for valid and invalid inputs for CSS, basically you have the pseudocode of invalid and valid colon with a colon in front. Excuse me. Sorry if I coughed in your ear. I didn't mean to do that. So if you put we've learned about this, kind of went over this in past videos, but you have the colon. We've done this before with maybe not invalid valid, but we did it with enable disable and hover. Maybe not enable. We did it for sure with active and clicked and hover and focus. Anyway, use the invalid here is going to color it red if it's invalid. If it's valid, it's just going to run this CSS here. So basically, if it's invalid, it's going to be red, meaning it, what it sounds like, it turned out to be an invalid entry. And so if we run the pen, it starts out green because naturally it's valid because there's nothing in it, at least according to the way this HTML and CSS is wrote out. So that's that see how that kind of flashed red throughout there for a second? It's because it was evaluating this, looking for what it needed, the @ sign mainly. I guess I was wrong earlier. I guess the dot is not a requirement in this example anyway. Excuse me. I would have suspected that'd be a requirement. I guarantee that sign is. Yep. That's weird. So it doesn't. I think I would fix that myself personally, but you need to have a period in your email. Well, anyway, I guess this particular form you could give it a malformed email, and then the website would be it's going to challenge for a well-formed HTML website. You could do that, or you could do HTTPS for secure socket layer, and there's that. So yeah, so that's the valid and invalid pseudocode classes. There's not an invalid on this one because, or not a valid, because basically if it's not hitting invalid, it's a valid. So there are instances, and you'll read in here in examples of that, where you would want to have a, wow, I hate it when it does that, when you want to have a valid pseudo class in there. I keep wanting to say pseudocode, pseudo class in there, but it's not in this one. So, and I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. But that's basically it. So I won't make this one go any longer than it needs to. So if I mark this one complete, bada bing, bada boom. Now I'm 17% complete. So cool. So next time we'll be going into SVG. You don't have any idea what that is. So images, it looks like. Image format on the web. Okay, so that'll be what we start with next time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the ride today and learned a little bit along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments below how you guys are doing so far in this particular section of intermediate HTML and CSS, which would be form control and form validation. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.